So now into double figures for goals and assists in the Premier League for Ipswich this season. Liam Delap has undoubtedly caught the eyes of most football fans in England. But while his low release clause of €35 million is certainly tempting, one question remains unanswered about the young striker. Can he do what he's done for Kieran McKenna's side this season at Old Trafford or Stamford Bridge next season? Let's find out. What puts Delap's success in the Premier League into context and adds further weight to his impressive goal haul for Ipswich is that this is his first season in the English top flight. In fact, it's his first season in any top flight. And when we look back at his career to date at senior level, we can see that he's not only risen to the challenge of scoring goals in the toughest league in the world, but seems to have improved dramatically under the pressure. Simply tallying up Delap's goals to date over the course of the last couple of seasons would be a little disingenuous considering the inconsistent nature of his loan spells at Stoke, Preston and Hull City. Instead, I'm far more interested in taking a look at what Delap did in the game time he was afforded at each club to see if he made the most of the chances that fell in front of him at each and every site. And fascinatingly enough, the numbers certainly offer up an interesting story. For example, as we can see in the graph, Delap's first loan spell at Stoke went reasonably well, where he played as a regular starter for the club and bagged a solid 0.21 non-penalty goals per 90 and averaged a very impressive 5 touches of the ball in the box per game. Both of those numbers then fell in the second half of the season when Delap was recalled by Man City and sent out to Preston North End, where he was mostly used as an impact sub and didn't really get going at the Deepdale Stadium. In the following league campaign, Delap was then sent on loan to Hull City, where he once again returned to a starting role and in turn saw his non-penalty goals average rise to a then career high of 0.33 per 90. However, as we can see in the graph, his touches in the box per game were more or less identical to what he averaged at Preston. Unlike his 2 loan spells in the previous season, Delap looked far more clinical in front of goal and wasted very few chances as he bagged 8 goals for Hull in the Championship. This undoubtedly is the Delap we now see in the Premier League. Remarkably, when we look at his form for Ipswich this season on the graph, we can see that he's now scoring more goals than ever before from open play, but doing so with the fewest touches of the ball in the opposing box. And while a solitary season is rarely enough to go on when judging the potential of a player, it certainly suggests that Delap could score a whole lot more in the English top flight if he were to play for a bigger club. So how good is Delap compared to the best goal scorers in the Premier League this season? To answer that question properly, we have to take a look at his efficiency in front of goal and compare it to the best strikers in the Premier League to see if it's as good in the wider context of the English top flight. And since I'm doing an entire video on a young player, you could probably guess it is actually very impressive indeed. When we group together the top 20 goal scorers in the Premier League this season and calculate how many touches of the ball in the opposing box they take per goal scored, we get a graph like this one. As we can see, Nottingham Forest target man Chris Wood is marked as the joint most efficient goal scorer in the league, alongside Chelsea inside forward Cole Palmer. Midfielders kind of skew the data here a little bit since they obviously don't spend as much time in the box but frequently score goals outside of it. But the important thing is here not to focus on Palmer, James Paddison, etc., but to actually see where Delap ranks among these very top players. With 7.5 touches in the box per goal in the Premier League this season, Delap is technically a more efficient goal scorer than some of the league's most celebrated strikers, such as Alexander Isak, Ollie Watkins, and even Mohamed Salah. In fact, according to the data, the Ipswich striker only needs 1.2 more touches of the ball in the opposing box per game than Erling Haaland to score a goal, which is certainly very encouraging for a player that has only just turned 22 years of age. Now, at this point, it would be very tempting to look at this graph, see Chris Wood at the top of the pile and say, okay, Delap is just very similar to his Forest counterpart, he's just a penalty box target man, and he would probably struggle in a bigger team that have more comprehensive or sophisticated tactics. But there's so much more to the young striker than simply tussling with central defenders and winning headers in the box. According to Data MD stats, Delap averages 2.19 successful dribbles per Premier League game this season. Not only does that constitute a very impressive success rate of 59% for every dribble attempted, but it's also the 3rd highest average in the English top flight among all forwards. Only West Ham's Jared Bowen and Liverpool star Diogo Jota dribbled by opposing players more than the Ipswich star. And as we can see from this Who Scored graphic of Delap's touches of the ball in a recent game with Wolves, The young forward spends most of his game time playing outside the box. If Delap's game did revolve around his ability to dribble by players and to run into space when Ipswich counter-attack, I would be a little wary of suggesting that he's well suited to a top team. After all, we've seen time and time again players that thrive in smaller counter-attacking teams then struggle when they make the move to a Manchester City or Liverpool and suddenly have to break down a very low block in two back lines basically of defenders each and every week in the Premier League. But Delap is unlikely to suffer such a fate. Instead, the striker's remarkable efficiency in front of goal suggests that if he were to join a bigger club, his goal scoring would actually rise in direct correlation with the additional touches he received in the opposing box. And due to his ability to dribble and his remarkable off-the-ball work outside of the box, it seems clear to me that if Delap were to make the move to a bigger club next season, he simply wouldn't be playing as a target man for the likes of Manchester United or Chelsea. So in no uncertain terms, it seems like Delap really is the real deal and a very impressive young player to boot. And any club that's able to pick him up for €35 million this summer would undoubtedly be picking up one of the biggest bargains of the summer transfer window.